Hi viewers, hope you're all doing well. In today's video lecture, we will be learning about the culturing of microorganisms. Now, this is a very important aspect that a microbiologist should know in any industry. When you join in as a microbiologist in a lab or an industry, the main job profile will be to grow the organisms and then study them or work on them. So, to grow the organisms, you need to know what has to be provided. What is the substrate that needs to be given such that the organisms grow well? Also, you need to have the knowledge of isolating an organism from a mixed culture. So, these are the different techniques that we will be talking about in the upcoming video lectures. But before all the techniques, what we need to know is where to grow the organism. So the substrate which we use or the nutrient solution that we use to grow the organism is called as a culture medium. The plural for it is media. Now this culture medium is designed in such a way that it allows a continuous growth and survival of the organism. So it has to be designed in such a way that it provides adequate supply of all the important nutrients. No nutrient can be left out. All the nutrients need to be provided in a balanced quantity so that the organism is able to use these nutrients and grow well, or it is able to grow luxuriously, and we can then use these organisms for our studies. So a medium, when we say a culture medium, will usually have a mineral base which is then supplemented with a carbon source, an energy source, a nitrogen source, and the required growth factors. When we look at the composition of any nutrient medium, the primary thing over there is the carbon source. This is the primary component. This is because the carbon is not only one of the central or the essential atoms that is there in all the biomolecules of a microbial cell. Not only that, apart from that, the carbon source is also going to act as the energy source for most of the organisms. So organisms derive energy from the carbon source. Additionally, they use the carbon and they incorporate it into various parts of their cell. For example, into the carbohydrates or into the proteins or the nucleic acid. So you pick up any biomolecule of the organism, it has carbon in it. So every medium that we design should have an ample quantity of a carbon source. The type of carbon source we use can differ from one medium to other. It can be given in the form of a sugar like dextrose, or we can give it in the form of peptone, or we can give it in the form of starch, cellulose, depending on what type of organism we are growing. Based on that, we can differ our carbon source, but carbon source is a must. The next important component is a nitrogen source, which is also very essential because it gets incorporated into all the proteins. And when we say proteins, these proteins can be cell components, like they may be inserted into the cell wall of the organism if it's a bacteria, or they can be inserted into the nucleic acids, they are inserted into the enzymes. So nitrogen is also a very important component that needs to be kept in mind when we are designing a culture medium for an organism. The nitrogen can be provided in the form of inorganic compounds such as ammonium salts or nitrate salts, or we can provide it in organic form in the form of amino acids. So directly we can give peptone or beef extract, which are giving organic sources of nitrogen. Apart from these, the organisms need vitamins which are also aiding the cellular functions of the organism. So for all of these metabolic activities, we can provide vitamins. These vitamins can be provided in a pure preformed state to the organism, or they may occur as impurities along with the other sources when we are talking about natural media. I'll tell you what that is. The next component are minerals. Minerals can be used again directly in the pure form, or they may be present as impurities along with the major carbon and nitrogen sources. So these minerals include sodium, potassium, chlorine, magnesium, manganese, etc. All of these minerals need to be provided to the organism, not in a very big quantity, but in trace quantities, small quantities. To dissolve all of these components, we use distilled water. So whenever we prepare culture medium in the lab, in a microbiological lab, we do not use tap water because tap water has its own salts and minerals which may hinder or which may inhibit the growth of our required organism. So what we use in a lab is distilled water in which the minerals and the salts have been removed. Apart from these, one of the components that can be used in a medium, this is optional, is the use of agar. Now, agar acts as a solidifying agent. It is basically a polysaccharide compound that is derived from the seaweed Gelidium. So, the Gelidium algae is the source for this solidifying agent. When we add agar into any liquid medium, after boiling it, when the medium cools, the medium gets solidified. So if you want to solidify your medium, or if you want to add a solidifying agent, we can go for agar. If we are not looking for a solid medium, then we can avoid agar and use all the other components for the culture medium, for the preparation of a culture medium. So a medium which is being made by using completely defined nutrients is called as a synthetic medium, whereas a medium that is being made by using ingredients of unknown composition is called as a semi-synthetic medium. An example of a synthetic medium is BG11 broth, which is used for the cultivation of cyanobacteria. Here we know the exact quantity of every component. I know exactly how much sodium I am adding. I know how much nitrogen I am adding. I know exactly how much of potassium I am giving to the organism. So here all the components are exactly defined. They are chemically defined, and hence this is called as a synthetic medium. On the other hand, the medium which is having unknown composition, that is called as a semi-synthetic medium. For example, nutrient agar. Now in nutrient agar, there is a component called as peptone. I know that peptone provides nitrogen to the organism. I know peptone provides carbon to the organism. But I do not know how much carbon and how much nitrogen exactly, as this peptone is being derived from a natural source. Such kind of media where we are using components that are providing the required nutrients, no doubt, but we don't know the exact composition of those nutrients. Such a kind of medium is called as a semi-synthetic medium. Example is nutrient agar or nutrient broth. The third type of medium is a basal medium. Basal medium is basically an unsupplemented medium or a basic medium that is used for growing organisms that do not require any special nutrients. Another example for this is the same, that is nutrient agar, which is a minimal, it is having minimal components that are allowing the growth of the organism, or they are supporting the growth of the organism. There is no extra additional nutrient. So these are the types of medium based on the components of a medium. This is one type of classification based on the components of the medium. The other type of classification of media is based on its consistency. So based on the physical structure or physical nature of the medium, they can be divided as liquid media or solid media. Liquid media are also called as broth cultures, wherein the nutrient solution or the medium is liquid in nature and they do not have a solidifying agent. That is the agar. They lack agar. They do not have a solidifying agent in them. Examples for this include nutrient broth or tryptone broth, peptone broth. There are many different examples of broth cultures or liquid cultures. In such a culture, when the organism starts growing, the growth of organism is indicated by turbidity or cloudiness. So when our entire culture becomes turbid or when it becomes cloudy, we come to know that yes, the organism has grown. In a solid culture, on the other hand, we add a solidifying agent. For example, an agar, you can use other solidifying agents such as gelatin as well. So in case of a solid medium, when the organism starts growing, we can make out the growth of the organism in the form of colony. As you can see in this picture, there are colonies that are formed on the medium. These colonies are basically the amplification of the microorganism. So one microorganism divides, it rapidly divides and it forms a group of cells that we now call as a colony. So on a solid medium, colony formation is an indication of the organism's growth, whereas on a in a liquid medium or a broth culture, turbidity or cloudiness is an indication of the growth of organism. Liquid media can be grown or liquid media can be used in conical flasks or in test tubes, and solid media can be used on Petri plates or even in test tubes. Now, when we use solid medium in test tubes, they can be poured. The media can be poured and we can have different types of test tube cultures. So, we can either have an agar slant or an agar stab. Agar slant is when the medium is poured into the tube and then the entire tube is inclined before it is solidified. So before the medium becomes solid, we are keeping the tubes at an incline or at a slanting position so that the media gets solidified in a slanting position. After solidification, this is how the media appears. So we have a long area on the top that is called as the slant. This is the agar slant. And at the bottom, we have an area that is called as the butt. A good agar slant will have a long slant and a short butt. So the agar slant is the area where we grow the organism. As you can see over here, the agar slant has been inoculated and the organism is growing over there. So the bottom of the agar is called as the butt, and the top area, which is giving us a good surface area for growth, that is called as the agar slant. This kind of culture, the agar slants, are usually used for maintenance of any culture. The second type of solid culture that can be used inside a test tube are agar stabs. Now in this case, we pour the media into the test tube and we let it solidify as such. We do not slant the tubes. So when we let the media solidify like that, the tube is kept straight, and as you can see over here, we are having a thick chunk of media that is getting solidified. In such cases, we inoculate the medium by using an inoculation needle. So these agar stabs are usually used to study the oxygen requirements of microorganisms or even for motility checking. So agar stab is one method which is used for certain biochemical tests, such as for motility checking or for checking the oxygen requirements, whereas agar slants are used for maintenance of the culture. The simple reason being, agar slants give you a larger surface area for growth, whereas an agar stab has a very small surface area. So it cannot be used for maintenance. It's not ideal to be used for maintenance. As you can see over here, these are the different colony characteristics that can be observed when we are growing organisms on a Petri plate. There are different colony characteristics such as shape, margin, elevation, size, texture, opacity, and pigmentation. And these are the different growth patterns of organisms when they are growing in a broth culture. Based on the utility of the media can be classified into 5 types. The first one under that is the selective media. Selective media is a type of medium which is having or which is incorporating certain chemical substances in it that inhibit the growth of one organism and make it feasible for the desired organism to grow well. So one organism is being inhibited, whereas the desired organism is being enhanced, or the desired organism is allowed to grow luxuriously. Such a type of medium is called as a selective medium. And examples of selective medium include eosin methylene blue agar, endo agar, MacConkey agar. All of these media incorporate substances in them which are inhibiting the growth of one group of organisms. For example, MacConkey agar has the dye crystal violet in it, or it also has bile salts which are inhibiting the gram-positive bacteria. Even the eosin methylene blue agar is having dye in it, that is eosin and methylene blue, which are inhibiting the gram-positive bacteria, and they allow only the gram-negative bacteria to grow. So such a type of medium is called as a selective medium, which selects one group of organisms and inhibits another group of organisms. The next type of medium based on the utility are enrichment media. Enrichment media are those that are permitting the growth of a specific group of bacteria just because those bacteria or those organisms can utilize the component better. These media do not inhibit any organism. They are just allowing better growth of one group of organisms. So they provide optimal conditions for the luxurious growth of one group of organisms or desired group of organisms. An example for this is selenite F broth. This media will favor the growth of Salmonella. E. coli can also grow in this broth, but E. coli is not getting inhibited. It will start growing only after 24 to 48 hours, but Salmonella will start growing immediately and will flourish in the medium. So this is an example of enrichment medium. The next type of medium is enriched media. As you can see here, the earlier one was enrichment. This is enriched media. Enriched media are basically the basal media which have been added with some additional special growth factors. Such a type of medium is called as an enriched medium. This is mainly used to grow the fastidious microorganisms or the fussy microorganisms. The examples for enriched media include blood agar, chocolate agar, Dorset egg medium. As you can see over here, in all of these media, we are adding some additional growth factors such as blood or in egg yolk. These are, or serum can be added. These are added so that the regular media or basal media is getting enriched. It is getting nutritionally rich and our organism is able to grow. So this is mainly used for adding some growth factors. As you can see here, this is chocolate agar and this is the Dorset egg medium. The next type of medium based on its utility are differential media. Differential media, as the name says, helps us to differentiate or distinguish between a related group of organisms. Examples for this include blood agar, McConkey agar, yeast extract mannitol agar. So all of these are media wherein when you grow a mixture of organisms, one organism gives you one color, the other organism gives you a different color, and you are able to differentiate. You can tell them apart. Okay, this is group A, that is group B. For example, what is shown over here is blood agar. Blood agar is having blood in it, so there are RBCs. Certain organisms show complete breakdown of the RBC. Those are called as beta hemolytic organisms. There are others which are showing only partial breakdown of the RBCs, and therefore they give a green discoloration around their growth, that is called as alpha hemolysis. And some other organisms are unable to break down the RBCs, that is called as gamma hemolysis. So when you grow a mixture of organisms, you can very clearly make out which is showing alpha, which is showing beta, which is showing gamma, and based on this you can actually differentiate the pathogens. Similarly, this is another example, that is McConkey agar, which helps you to differentiate between lactose fermenting and lactose non-fermenting organisms. Lactose fermenters give us pink colored colonies, whereas lactose non-fermenters give us colorless colonies. So these are examples of differential media. And the last one is transport medium. Transport medium is basically a minimal medium or a non-nutritive medium which is designed to only support the viability of an organism without helping it to grow much. The reason is these kind of media are providing a reduced environment. They are mainly used to transfer cultures from a far location to the laboratory. So during the time of transfer, we don't want the organisms to multiply or proliferate, but we want them to survive. So such media are providing a reduced environment such that the organisms remain viable, they remain alive, but they do not grow significantly. So such a type of medium is called as a transport medium. Examples for this include Venkataraman Ramakrishnan medium, which is a very good transport medium that is used for Vibrio cholerae, or we have Stewart transport medium and Amy's transport medium. These are some examples of transport media. So what we have spoken about today are the different types of media, the classification of media based on the utility of the medium, the classification of media based on the consistency of the medium, and based on the components of the medium. We have also spoken about what are the different components that go in when you are, or constituents that go in when you are designing a medium. So these are the basics of culturing of microorganisms. In the next video lecture, we will look into the techniques for the culturing, that is the pure culture techniques. See you in the next class. Thank you.